Now, we all know that when we're talking about the dynamic landscape of marketing, artificial intelligence truly is emerging as a defining force. And even since morning, the sessions that we've had, we've been hearing all our speakers talk about the fact that AI has been there for a while. It has indeed. And which is why we all know that AI is here to stay. But the big question that's running in our minds is, if AI is here to stay, then how will marketing evolve? So to get the right answers, it's only befitting that we get the right set of leaders right over here. And if I could please invite them on stage. First up, to spearhead the session, we have with us none other than Mr. Prasad Shejale, founder and CEO, Logicserve Digital. So I'd like to please invite him on stage. Thank you so much for joining us. I have to admit that, when you take a look at the lineup of speakers, each one of them comes with such prolific experience. We in fact have with us none other than Mr. Arun Srinivas, Director and Head Ads Business, Meta. So if I could please also invite Mr. Arun Srinivas to please come on stage. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Director Consumer Digital with Mondelez International. We have with us Mr. Vednarayan Sirdeshpande. May I further invite Soumitra Dhankar, Senior Solution Consulting Manager with Adobe. Our next speaker, we have with us Satish, Saraf, founder of Valueleaf. And ladies and gentlemen, not something that happens very often in marketing conclaves, but we have a very renowned academician who, in fact, when we talk about the 16th edition of the best-selling textbook, The Marketing Management by Philip Kotler, he's the one who's actually co-authored it. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor G. Shainesh, Professor Marketing, IIM Bangalore. I'll tell you something, I know we all enjoyed that lunch. We're all about to enjoy this conversation. Can we actually come together, have the loudest round of applause for the leaders coming together? And on that note, I'm going to quickly hand it over to Mr. Shejale. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. And I'm very lucky, to have such a panelist with me, We have academician, we have a practitioner, we have platform providers, we have from media, and of course we have an agency, right? It's very balanced view that we would talk about, And as you rightly said, AI has been talked about so much, But I think under the hood, as always, tech players always say under the hood it always played, right? But it came to fore because ChatGPT became a common tool for everyone, and generative AI became a in everyone's common conversation that way, right? Before I start the session, right? Disclosure. I asked ChatGPT and Bard, give the profiles of the people today and say that what sort of question that I should ask. So of course, the questions are inspired by those suggestions. It also means is that it saved around 4 to 5 hours of research for me, And that's the power of the generative AI to say, right? But before I get into asking the questions, all of us, in our marketing days, we have read the marketing management book, right? Professor Shainesh, the question is coming to you. It was always told, the basic concepts of marketing remains the same, For last 30 years, I've been hearing that, and I strongly believe. Before we get into practitioner's view, is AI changing those rules? Are those going to be some 6 Ps, 7 Ps, 8 Ps, some AI, something coming way?
So yeah, thank you, Prasad. It's yes and no. While many of the core concepts remain as they are, we also see a lot of new concepts and theories coming up. Traditionally, we would really look at theories from a economic or behavioral perspective, or what's called the interactive and non-interactive perspective. So one of the more recent theories in marketing is what's called the customer valuation theory. And it's getting much more popular because, whether you're a startup or a mid-sized company or a large company, valuation is a very important metric for everyone in the organization. So organizations look at themselves as, as a portfolio of products or services or offerings that they offer. But there's another way to look at organization. It's a portfolio of customers. And what's the value of the portfolio of customers that you have? So if you really look at the value of the organization, it's not just a correlation. It's a very strong causation between the value of the portfolio of customers that you have and how it actually gets reflected in the marketplace if you're a listed organization. So that's becoming much more important. And today, for many organizations, it's very, very easy to assess the value, starting with the revenue generated by each customer, the profitability generated. Also, a concept which has been there for at least 2 decades, which is customer lifetime value. So you can link up all of that. You can do it at very, very individual level, whether you have 50 million customers or 450 million customers like SBI.
So very interesting. What I understand, I think we will double click on it later on, but what I understand is the value of a customer is something which one has to really understand, and for that a huge amount of data points which are required, right? And those data points probably become a fertile stuff for the whatever LLMs, or you call it, or machine learnings and all that stuff, right? So the question to you, Arun, from meta perspective, right? You have such a humongous understanding, and I'm quite sure there are so many years, the AI is being at the back somewhere. Reaching out to the consumer using AI as an engine, okay, would like to know Meta's view on that. How do they do it? Something more than what we know, I think that would be better. Something much more deeper maybe. So because we, on top of it, probably we will build some stories for our audience.
Yeah, thanks, Prasad. So I think, firstly, AI has always been, around us. I think it's not something new. I'm sure we've all seen enough Hollywood movies for the last 30 years. I'm sure, you'd have seen enough artificial intelligence. I don't know how many of you remember Minority Report and whatnot, right? I mean, those books were written well in the, 80s and 90s. So it's always existed. And, as far as Meta is concerned, I think we used AI starting 2006, really where I would say it was more a backbone. It was not something I think we all spoke about. But let's say if I look at how we all use Instagram today and Facebook today, that's why the feed was very personalized, right? I mean, so AI was at the heart of the engine, and of course we used to call it algorithm, in layman's language. But now I think, obviously, thanks to Chat GPT, etc., it's out there in the forefront where consumers are now interacting with AI. I think for us especially, it's been an exciting time because clearly the tech industry, when the whole industry starts moving, you also get a lot of talent. You also start having lots more advancements. One thing we have done, I would say, in the last 12 to let's say last 6 to 12 months, is that I think many of you, I'm sure, here are on Instagram. Today, actually, I can say this, in the last quarter, about 40% of what you see on your feed is actually recommended by AI and not people you follow. And what we've actually seen, and we are actually, that's what I'm saying, it's not a concept, it's live and here. We've actually seen time spent grow by 24%. So basically, it clearly tells you that when the machine is learning and learning constantly on what you like, what your interests are, who you follow, what is your dwell time, as we call it, on a particular reel or particular post, it's actually adding to that learning so that, you get more content you like, and obviously it's a virtuous cycle. You spend more time on the platform. So clearly we have numbers also, and we are obviously then now trying to figure out, saying, what do we do with it? How do we enhance that capability? So I think it is, very much out there, in terms of everything you do. And this obviously works, right, for both users on our platform and therefore advertisers and marketers as well, because then, they can obviously target people with even more sharper understanding. We've also launched a lot of ad tools around AI, in the last year or so. Whether, for example, today there is already technology in AI which, let's say, can give me a striped shirt and give Prasad a plain shirt, knowing that, this is what he has been seen wearing, or, likes, etc. So I think these are things that were hitherto not possible, but I think, these are steps in the right direction. Equally, on the generative AI side, I think, a lot more, a lot of us use, for example, messaging services like WhatsApp. I think, I would say, like, it's easy to hire a lot of agents and, start typing messages on chat on their desktop or on the mobile. But imagine if AI could do that seamlessly and at least get past the first, few conversations as through a bots. It becomes much simpler then to really only, move the larger queries, etc., to a, let's say, a live agent. So this obviously helps businesses. So I think we are living in an era where AI is real. It's not something which is future. And I think clearly, we see a huge role on, how it will impact marketers and marketing.
Yeah, So what I understand is definitely from the consumer perspective as well as from the advertiser's perspective, okay, creating that relevant content and helping the marketer to create or rather have those rather segmentation and probably reach out to the right people is important. But at the same time, Ved, the question is to you, is that when there is such a huge echo room, okay, wherein everyone is resonating to what probably is an established fact and it is getting, sort of more and more amplified, okay, the job of a marketer is to find out one deviant one and play on that, right? Okay, that is where the, breaking the clutter or whatever you call it. When we talk about Mondelez, right, I think you guys are good at that, right? Finding that white space. How do you do that? Is there a framework around this, and how AI is getting used onto it? Otherwise, AI will keep saying the same thing that you hear, and then what's the job for marketer? That will come later on maybe. You get the question, right? How you break the clutter out of this AI, using the AI.
Thanks, Prasad. I think it's not an arms race, to be honest with you, right? I think the start point for us was, how does AI work for us from a creative amplification standpoint? How do you take our campaigns much closer to our customers than any other technology or tool that's available today, right? So if you've seen over the last couple of years, the campaigns that have been AI enabled for us, or especially generative AI enabled for us, it's not only personalized the campaign for the consumer, but it's hyper personalized, which meant that, we've brought the campaigns much closer to our target audiences. And that's been one of the highlights in terms of strategically using generative AI in our campaigns. So that's one sort of use case in terms of how do you use tactical generative AI to amplify the creative power of your campaigns. That's the first piece. The second piece is now, how do we strategically use AI into some of the work that we are doing on the creative side or on the content side. Maybe it's text, images, social content, bottom funnel creatives, etc., etc. I think this is where the approach has always been POC driven, proof of concept driven, right? So we are working with multiple partners as we speak to sandbox some of these use cases, right? How do we look at creating accuracy with some of the output that our agency partners are giving us, right? How do you create recipes? We have a platform called Desert Corner, which is dishing out hundreds of recipes around how do you integrate Cadbury portfolio of brands into desserts. So I think generating all of this bottom funnel content also requires a fair bit of honing, because our agency partners who are working with us have been working with us since a long time. And they've perfected the art of creating this very creative and content. So we are looking at an approach where we are working with partners on sandboxing some of these POCs to arrive at output that we feel can be then scalable. And once we start arriving at output that becomes a bit scalable, we will try to then replicate that at scale on our platforms. Yeah.
I think that's a good use case, and I think many of us are using it, creating content at scale. There's one question I'll probably later come back, but when you're talking about it, okay, from the FMCG perspective, there's so much of data you don't get it, okay, and there are so much data probably most of the brands are trying to get it. The ways you then, if someone want to have a recipe, then probably has to register, and that becomes a good sample size to understand the consumer. Then, you know what, Soumitra, for you, Adobe, from perspective, is that you have some awesome tools, okay, when a consumer becomes known, okay, how to be relevant to him. And maybe what Professor Shainesh were talking about it, right? Some of the work that I have read of you, Professor, also is that how to create that extra value in that value equation, okay? So would you like to talk about, how is AI as of now helping that? And probably what are the trends that you see?
Great question, Prasad. And as Arun said, AI has been there for a decade or so. And when it comes to technology and customer experience, there were three things in my experience that AI was doing so far. Right? The first was discover what is hidden. So I have huge set of data I want to understand who are the customers who are most likely to convert or most likely to churn. And I had machine learning models which would give me those outcomes. The second was accelerate what is slow. So I have done a great photo shoot as a marketer with celebrity. Some of the camera's angles have captured the celebrity greatly, but there was a bird that was flying. Can I remove the bird and have the background being assimilated so that I don't have to go back and reshoot? So AI would help me accelerate that creative process. The third was decide when it matters. And this was around converting an unknown customer to known customer. What is the right experience to render on what device, what location, what time of the day to ensure that I give a compelling experience for customers to convert. So essentially, all the features that got rendered across multiple products, be it my company or any company, they fell into these three buckets. What has generative AI done? So AI was a trusted lieutenant for a marketer to accelerate the entire go-to-market process. What generative AI has done in past 6 quarters or so is it has graduated AI from being a trusted lieutenant to a co-pilot. So today, a marketer, any task he wants to do, generative AI is going to do it for him. I want to write a brief for my agency, generative AI will do text to text. I want to generate an image for my photo shoot, I can give a command which will generate an image from the text, and similarly, image to video or text to video or whatever. So it gives you a baseline to go to market faster, which you can use to build on top of it. It's not a prescription, but it's a great starting point with a lot of best practices that are already built in. On top of which, you can train your own model and make it very custom to yourself. So
you have the amount of data that you would feed it to the model, it's something which the output starts improving. Satish, I have a question for you, right? And it could be very cliched to say, is that for every time someone has talked about AI or ML, if I get some 10 rupees, probably I'll be a rich man by the end of the day, right? So, har dard ki dawa is AI nowadays, right? Okay. And as a service provider, okay, you hear a lot of clutter, but you have to solve the problems of marketeers. So, what are your expectations from the service provider sitting here?
So, I'm in a very interesting phase of life, right? So, I also run an agency. At the same time, I also have my own fintech business. It's called Buddy Loan. And one fine day, I had a meeting with my tech team, and I was like, "Yaar, itna AI, ML, सारे लोग बोलते हैं, होता क्या है, and why are we not using it?" Right? Because it sounds very good. So I think, as most of the fellow panelists were saying, this was always there, right? For AI or any of these things to happen, you write those algorithms. And I think today, because of the infrastructure available, because of the kind of hardwares which are available, this can happen at scale, right? And you ultimately, what you do is you write those algorithms, and the data keeps on accumulating. So the machine keeps on learning this and keeps giving you personalization. So for example, what I see today, say, personalization is possible at a way larger scale. Say today, if I buy, say, boots on Amazon, right? Next time Amazon shows me what I bought basis my previous behavior, and it can do it at scale for multiple things. Or earlier in our typical agency or typical marketing business, we used to do this A/B testing. So, एक campaign को let's run it for 5 days and then see कि कौन सा campaign worked better, कौन सा campaign we need to pause. Now this can happen on a real-time basis, right? So I think ultimately, as agency or as marketers, what I see today, AI can do. One is there are much more tools available. So smaller business today can do much more things. Secondly, as an agency, what we have seen is we can offer our customers much more and the cost of managing a campaign is ultimately coming down, because a lot of things which were earlier being done by humans can now be done by machines.
Yeah, I think Satish, what I hear from you from the takeaway for the service providers is maybe I'll say hashtag personalization, hashtag scale, hashtag value for the money. Okay, these are the three things that you are generally asking for. Okay, that's a good one. We have sponsors also who are service providers in AI. I think that's a good one. You know what? Our job, okay, is in a way getting evaluated by the response of a customer, right? Whatever we do it. Professor, this question is for you. You have done extensive work on from the customer perspective, right? When marketeers are using this tool, okay, customers are getting either numb or ready for it, right? And the more, and it's like more dopamine you give, the receptors become, excessive a person. So what are the trends that you see here? Because customers are going to change a lot. Very customer focused view that I would like to have.
Yes, I think, thank you, Prasad, for asking this question because, as the title says, how will marketing evolve? I think we have to also be conscious of the fact that the customers are evolving rapidly and they will use the same tools that the marketers are going to use, which means that, there's a great opportunity for marketers to empower customers, enable customers, co-create, partner with them. While a lot of discussion happens around content, communication, and sales, but I think the initial parts of the value delivery process includes understanding, creating value. So the two big missing pieces usually is about how do we actually use all these insights to improve existing products and services, maybe personalize them. And the second part is how do we engage in a way that's also amenable to the customers. There's a whole discussion on customer journey, customer management and all. But I think today with all these tools that's available, customers can choose with whom to engage. And 2 weeks back, I was organizing a symposium on digital innovations, fintech, financial inclusion and sustainability. And one of the comments from one of the panelists was very interesting for me, and I thought I should just tell that. So when banks give, I have a panelist who is in the loans business, I've understood the business. When a bank gives a loan or any provider gives a loan to a customer, they ask for a lot of documents which says KYC, know your customer. Now what about know yourself, KYS, which means that if I know myself, I will reach out to the financial service providers and give me the best value for what I'm capable of. And so that's really reversing the whole equation. It happens in groups, but empowering the individual customer means that I pick and choose who will serve me. And that is quite possible if you extend the power of AI.
I think what words stuck in my mind we were talking about, customer is a choice, it's a choose, he chooses it, right? And when the customer is asked to choose, one of the most important factor, and every marketing book would talk about the trust and the value equation, I'm not talking about it, right? AI is a tool probably, okay, and I'm not even talking about the generative AI. Let's move into the predictive and diagnostic AI, which can really, sort of create things around my behaviors, and probably that could be put a hole into my trust for the brand, right? Okay. So something that I think I will talk about, I will ask question about what are the things that a marketer has to be aware of, okay, so that it's a responsible AI. Ved, I think I will like to ask that question to you. And then, of course, after that, Arun, to you, Meta, perspective. So, trust and AI are the two parameters that you want to set. How marketers should be ready for enhancing trust with the responsible AI usage.
Yeah, it's actually the most important factor in the usage of AI, right? Because we are in the business of ideas and idea generation and deploying some of these ideas towards customers. And I think the sanctity of ownership of ideas is extremely critical. And I think when you're actually collaborating with a non-human to generate ideas, it becomes a bit tricky in terms of understanding whether this information and the output that's been thrown at me is something that is truly my own in that sense, right? And there's obviously a lot of work and sort of work as well as sort of debate that's going on around whose idea is it anyway, right? So in terms of output. So I think in terms of how we approach it is essentially, as I rightly said before, we work with sandboxing, which is essentially the more responsible way of doing it. How do we deploy some of our reports, content, some of our creatives, which are obviously trademarked and stuff like that. So I think we're using a sort of a closed box theory and leveraging AI to come up with some of these ideas, versus being completely open about sourcing ideas from whatever output AI is able to give us, right? So I think we've been trying to look at it from an enterprise solutioning kind of model, and a closed group model before we kind of then have our own customized platform for us to kind of work with idea generation, deployment, etc., etc. Right? So I think this is it's an evolving process and work, but I think it's important to kind of highlight everybody here in the room that it's not easy where I go to a platform, put in my brand assets, give some prompts, and it throws out an idea and that's ready for, putting it in the market, right? It's not as easy as it sounds it is, right?
So what I understand as a marketeer, I think the whole concept of sandboxing, okay, run it, test it, run it, see how the response is, and then go out instead of saying that any new tool which will come. Okay, that's a good good advice, right? Arun, for you, may not be from the meta perspective, but would like to hear your views, okay? Because you understand technology pretty well from what it can do and what it can't do. So what will be your advice to marketeers from the responsible AI usage perspective? And I understand your view will not be that of Meta's one. It's an individual thought leadership view that I would like to have.
Yeah, see, I think, simply put, if you just go back to, let's say, the 90s, all of us, largely developed one form of a television asset or a print creative, and you deploy it at scale. I think, for us, really getting the message across to the masses was pretty simple, and you really measured your marketing effectiveness by, how many people saw the message or how many people understood the message, and, you were able to correlate it to business performance on sales or any other metrics. I think obviously we are living in, we moved then to, I would say, the first stage of the internet or apps really with platforms like Meta, Google, etc., where you are able to customize creatives, you are able to, it became more complex if I can use that word, but equally, rather than carpet bombing everybody, you are able to specifically target different cohorts and get different results, which obviously was, let's say, enhanced ROI. I think with AI now we are getting to the next level, right? Which is basically almost today the AI can actually churn out backgrounds on creatives, can actually mine the data much better and give you the right recommendations in terms of what the customer is likely to buy. So I think it's in some sense the basics of marketing, the basics of targeting, the basics of creatives, the basics of even what comms to use, etc. The engines can possibly do much better than what each of us in the room can do. Which actually gives us far more time, as business people and marketers. So the question is, what are we going to do with that time? How can you make your products more stronger? How can you make it more differentiated? How can you make your proposition stand out, vis-a-vis the competition? I think is something that possibly the next generation of marketers will have that opportunity to do. Rather than worrying about whether creative A or creative B or creative C, will work for this audience or that audience, because that I'm assuming the machines will become more and more intelligent. So the question is again, what do we do with, that time? How can we develop more innovative products in whichever industry we're in? And for example, many of these things were not possible. Let's say, 10, 15 years ago, you could not run things with 15 variants, or 25 kinds of credit cards. Today, you can do all of that. So the question is, can you actually, allow the engines to really, run the background while you're in the foreground really developing, cutting edge products. So I think that's what, AI will hopefully unleash.
Yeah, Arun, I wanted to answer about responsible, but what I understand is that the marketers are going to have a lot of time. Okay, use it responsibility to to create something great, something that I take away.
That's in their hands.
Soumitra, one view is here is that marketer's job is going to be there. That's what everyone is saying here. But you come from technology background, right? And more learning which happens. So, kya bolte, rise of the machines type of a stuff, right? Okay. What's your view? How good the technology will turn into in next 5 years? Wherein instead of 100 marketers, we need only half. Is that something that you see coming?
Yeah. I think we will need 100 marketers 5 years down the line. What
good
those
news.
100 marketers will do is to generate more content, is to generate more personalized experience, is to give Prasad what he wants from his brand, and Arun what he wants from his brand, and to Professor what he wants at what point of time. So I think it is going to augment the marketer's creativity rather than replace it. Right? What it will replace is the grunt work that is being done manually currently. And I'm sure as marketers, we all will quickly evolve to use AI in a way. So if my creativity as a marketer is to do creative work, I will graduate to be a prompt engineer. So I will know what to demand from AI to set the right context and get the right output. I think that is where I see it going down 5 years.
Satish, that's an interesting one. He used the word grunt work. Agencies do it now, right? Agencies do a lot of grunt work, right? It is going to be done by AI. Will there be agencies in future?
Yeah, I think today as agencies, right, I think today brands comes to us because that is our core expertise. That is what we do day in, day out, right? So today as a brand, you may not have expertise to build teams around marketing alone, right? Or to have so much of research. Today, you and me can afford experimentation at a large scale because we have a plethora of clients, right? Which the brands may not be able to do. At the same time, having said this, I am also seeing a trend where many brands are moving the marketing piece, many piece of it in-house. What I see, a slight hit, what I am observing at the moment is a lot of creative piece which was coming in the market as business for smaller agents, for smaller brands, now it's going in-house because of your AI and put this image, change this dog to a cat and things like this, right? So yeah, this is what I see.
Okay, fair enough. I think that means the agencies have to learn the new tricks to use this technology pretty well. And that's the reason I think they have a play to play. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. It's good to hear to me too also this. We have hardly a few seconds now. One thing, everyone, 5 seconds, right? Last question, okay? Which is the area in the next 5 years in marketing will completely change? One thing, anything it could be that comes to your mind. One word, 1 or 2 words. Quick fire question.
I think content creation.
Yeah? Arun?
I can second that. Content creation would change
yes.
drastically.
Yeah, I'd say, one-on-one conversations.
Conversations, very good. Professor?
Engagement, customer engagement.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
engagement. Satish?
Yeah, I was saying the same thing, that consumer engagement.
Engagement.
So as businesses, we have two things, acquire and engage. I think the engagement will dramatically change with AI in place.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. We are on time. Thanks, audience, for being such a lovely audience here. We had a good time talking about AI. I hope you had a good time listening to us also. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm going to request all our speakers to please come together for a group photograph. And that session truly engaged with all of us, all the members of the audience. So thank you so much for that riveting session. I'm going to request everyone to please come together. We'll have a quick group photograph. I'd also like to invite the team from IMAI to please present these wonderful gifts to all of our speakers. A token of appreciation to our speakers on behalf of Root Mobile, our platinum partner. Okay, so first we'll do the most millennial thingy, which is take a selfie. But sir, if you take a selfie, please don't forget to tweet using the hashtag 19marcon. Very important. But first I'm going to request you all to remain on stage. A beautiful token of appreciation from our platinum partner, Root Mobile. So I'm going to request the team to please hand over the same to all of our speakers. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you very much.